Hello, and welcome to February 13th, where we're dealing with Leviticus 6 and 7. Now, these chapters cover a bunch of details about those sacrifices that were previously mentioned and kind of some extra stuff about how you deal with those. What about the liars? How does that interact with the offerings? What about the priests? How do they work? How do you portion out the food? How do you deal with these things? These are the last commands about sacrifices that we're going to read in the book. And so God comes back around and addresses all the sacrifices and really just talks about, how do you practically do this? And what are some extra details that we need to consider before we actually are able to implement the system fully? If you're interested in a specific chapter breakdown of what goes on in both of these, Leviticus 6 covers the guilt offering. It starts out still talking about the guilt offering, but then it transitions away, and it goes back to the burnt offering, which is something we talked about in chapter 1, where we learned that it was, a specific animal that you cut in a specific way, and you take the specific pieces out, and you get rid of those, and you sacrifice a certain set of them. Well, God comes back around and says it's not just about what animal you sacrifice and like the details of where the blood goes. It's about how you sacrifice it. There's a priest, he needs to be involved. He needs to come in and do a certain thing with the animal. This is how you go about offering the sacrifices, not merely the details of what sacrifice is offered when. Same thing with the grain offering. How do we offer that where it's acceptable to God and a blessing to us? How do you offer a sin offering where it's acceptable to God and then you can take part in it? And how is that made effectual? Not just the offering being made, but how we go about doing it. Chapter 7 covers the guilt offering and then the peace offering as well, coming into those ideas. And then he mentions, you're not allowed to eat the fat, you're not allowed to eat the blood. Those things are off limits to you. Those things are for God to deal with alone. God also makes some provision for the priest in the end of chapter 7, making sure that his servants and the ones who fear him and work for him, they're going to be provided for. They were provided for with a table of showbread being their bread every day, and they're provided for with the meat from the sacrifices in some instances. And so God lays out rules to make sure that his people are provided for, to make sure that they have enough, that they can survive just fine. If you're interested in a further breakdown of some interesting details that might be found in the text, you're always welcome to go to the written page and check that out. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow, February 14th, which is Valentine's Day, I do think, and also chapters 8 through 10 of Leviticus.